Hello everybody. Welcome to another Reality Riffs from the car. Today I'm going to add some pictures to this in post so that you still got some visuals going on, because we are doing this from the car again to test some new equipment that was, well, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, today I want to talk about being the living prayer, which is something you'll hear about in the spiritual community. You'll hear spiritual teachers talk about being the living prayer and specifically making your life a mandala. For those of you, who have varying ideas of what a mandala is, a lot of people have seen the geometric artwork that is a mandala, but mandalas are done in certain cultures with sand. And they are these intricate designs, just like the mandalas you've seen, those intricate designs, but they do them literally with sand somewhere. And they're meant to be temporary. They are absolutely meant to be temporary. After putting all this work into it, they're just swept away. And it's an exercise in, releasing yourself of attachments, amongst other things, and there are a lot of prayers that go into it. And so when it comes to being the living prayer, spirituality is not just meant to be, going to yoga for the exercise. Oh my goodness, hashtag yoga hot, yoga babe, blah. Like, yoga is a spiritual practice. That's what I love about Kundalini yoga in particular. Hatha yoga has become this very, not to say that the real practice of Hatha yoga is like this, but Hatha yoga has become this very doing it for exercise. And mind, body, and spirit support all equally are important. But what I love about Kundalini yoga is there's no escaping the meditation and prayer parts of Kundalini yoga, because they're happening all at once. Kundalini yoga is one of the best whole health practices for mind, body, and spirit that you can do at once. And so I've got this guy riding up my ass because he doesn't understand that I can't get a pill very fast. Brought to you by Annie in the car. So anyway, we want to be the living prayer. We want to, in that sense, everything we do as consciously as we can be something that is being consciously done, and something that is living up to, or at least aiming for, being a part of your spiritual practice. And I talk about we are what we consume. And this ties into that in the sense that everything you do, down to, it doesn't have to be in every moment of everything you do, although that's what the aim is ultimately. But, saying a prayer before you eat, putting some vibes into your drink before you drink it, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you hold yourself, the way you write. And the way you do this, the way you become the living prayer, is by incorporating your spiritual practice into all you think, by using your spiritual practice to change how you think. And so where becoming the living embodiment of a mandala comes into this, and I love listening to the lectures that Guru Jagat gives before her yoga classes, where she talks about, I believe they call it geomancy. I think that's what they call it, geomancy, where they put so much effort into kind of like feng shui, making the spaces around them very intentionally organized. And I don't just mean organized in the sense of like neat and tidy. I mean like they have very specific, I believe they're called yatras, if I'm remembering correctly. They have very specific tapestries on the wall. They have very specific crystals, and they're placed in specific ways, and they choose very specific locations, specific buildings, intentionally dressing. And I'm not saying that you have to, walk like an Egyptian, like dress like a guru all the time, but like make it fun. Make it fun. One of the next videos I want to do is about what I talk about. I want to get deeper into this idea of being able to laugh with yourself rather than at yourself. I have even my socks, I love them. And when I put them on, I feel just a little bit more empowered. Anything and everything we can do to make each moment a moment of living prayer will raise our vibration and will help raise the vibration of the planet. So organize your space in a way in which intentionally raises your vibration. Wear clothes that make you feel good. Buy things that make you feel good. Eat in a way in which makes you feel good. And when I say feel good, I don't mean chasing the dopamine high. Because we do that often, where we mistake this concept of feeling good for feeling high. But when I say feeling good, I mean long-term sustainable health good, not quick fix, addiction-based dopamine high good. And we want to be conscious of these things. And we want to do things like use the internet as a tool, not let the internet use us. And we want to do things like just spend a little more time asking other people how they are, and actually listening, rather than feeling like everybody just needs to listen to us. Be the living prayer and make your life the living mandala. Get comfortable with the idea that you're going to do things and they're going to get swept away. And that's okay, because you've let go of the sentiment. You've let go of the attachment. We don't need to be quite so sentimental, because when we do that, a lot of the things that we do that are sentimental are us living in the past. And we don't want to live in the past. We don't want to live in the future. We want to live in the present moment. That is how we get into the vibration of living in a friendly universe, is by getting ourselves into the present moment. And that's not to say that we will never, ever, ever think about the future. And that's not to say that we will never, ever, ever think about the past. Sometimes living in the moment means considering the future or healing something about the past. But we don't want to live in them. Considering the past and considering the future is different than living in the past or the future. We want to live in the present moment, only considering the past or the future when it serves us in this present moment. And when you can start to do this regularly, you don't end up needing people to tell you what to do as much. You don't end up needing other people's help as much. You don't end up needing other people's guidance as much, because you're learning to tune into your inner guidance system. You're learning to tune into your intuition. Some people call it following your joy, which again is not following the addictive dopamine hit highs of the quick fix, but tapping into that part of you that is God, source, spirit, cosmic consciousness, the absolute, whatever you want to call it, that part of you inside of you that is that can always lead you in the right direction. When you learn to listen to yourself. And that's really what meditation is about. And I've got all these video ideas that I want to talk about, including a meditation 101 video that I want to do that reminds me of. But when we can do this, we don't need people to tell us what diet to do. We don't need people to tell us what to do. We don't need other people's guidance as much, which is not to say that guidance and help isn't good sometimes. Sometimes we need other people's help, period. But we certainly can be more independent and not reliant on, it makes it so that we can choose when we want to take it and when we don't want to take it, because we've learned to listen to our inner guidance system by just stopping and asking, what feels right in this moment? What feels good in this moment? Of the choices I have. Like, sometimes it's not infinitely like, what do I want to do? Not go to work, okay, fine. But in this moment, I'm going to work. I need to go to work, so which way do I go? Do I drive? Do I bike? Do I walk? Do I have these options? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's not like, follow your joy, don't go to work today. Sometimes it's, how can I make going to work as joyous as possible? How can I make putting on my clothes? How can I make eating? Even the mundane things, how can I make those things a living expression of joy, prayer, meditation, a living mandala? How can I make as many of my moments as happy as possible? Anytime, like, I've gotten pretty good at no longer living in the past and not even really having to consider the past all that much. There are still times where I might bring up the past as an example of something that I can use as a teachable moment. But whenever I get myself in trouble, it's because I'm living in the future and not living in this present moment, realizing that I have everything I need right now. Everything I need right now. Anything and everything I could possibly need for this moment right now, I have it. Because if I didn't, I'd be unconscious or dead. I wouldn't be sitting here in the car driving, talking to you all. Anytime I get myself in trouble, it's because I'm living in the future rather than living in this present moment. I do that with money sometimes because I know what it's like to have so much money that I don't have anymore. And I would say that that's worse than what it was like dreaming about having more money when I had never had it before, because I had never had a taste of that stability. And I had never promised myself at that point that I would never go back there. I promised myself that I would get out of it, but up to that point, I had never been out of it. So I didn't have that promise to myself that I would never go back to it. And so when I started digging myself or climbing back out of the hole I had dug for myself in life, And when I finally got out of it and was thriving and no longer just surviving, I had promised myself I would never go back there. And so where I am now sometimes feels like I've gone back there, even though most of the time I know better. And those times where it feels like that, where I'm in my human ego, not able to appreciate the fact that I have everything I need for this moment right now, is when I'm living in the future, too concerned about, or not just concerned about, but living in tomorrow. And there is no tomorrow, and there is no yesterday. There are only our memories and our projections. And when we can do this, living as a mandala, being a living prayer, when we can do that, not only do we raise our own vibration, not only do we get happier, not only do we get healthier, but when we do that, we raise the vibration of the planet. Because healing the planet starts with healing ourselves individually. So all of the people out there listening to this who want to be some sort of activist or, charitable philanthropist, just know that right now, the best thing you can do is heal yourself first, because that will do more for the rest of the planet. And that's not to say that any charitable contributions that you make won't also help the planet, and that's not to say that we shouldn't speak out about certain things. Some of us are here to speak out about different things, but we just have to remember that when we heal ourselves, that does more for the planet than any charitable contribution, because when we heal ourselves, are getting to the roots of what's wrong with the planet rather than treating symptoms, which is what we do when we make charitable contributions of some kind. And that's not that they're not both equally important, in the sense that we do need a little bit of each, but we need more people healing themselves. We need more people working on themselves, and that's not to say that we need less people doing charitable things. The law of abundance is giving without the expectation of receiving in return actually brings the most flow of abundance into you, because that's how the flow works. Rather than being so focused on what everybody else is doing and what everybody else needs, start tapping into more of what you need. Start tapping into how you can actually help not just heal the world, but we spiritually awakened souls, we are doing the work for our, I'm forgetting the word right now, it starts with an M. We're doing the work for our soul groups. We have soulmates. We have soul clusters that, it's driving me nuts, I'm not remembering the word. But anyway, if you imagine that the source consciousness, the some people call it the Godhead, God, source, spirit, cosmic consciousness, the part of that that's outside of you. Imagine that is the integrated frequency that is one ball of light. And then that gives off little pieces of itself, and then those little pieces split off into little pieces, and then those little pieces split off into little pieces, And eventually what you have is the little piece that's inside of you and the little piece that's inside of me. And so they have words for these things, and I can't believe that I'm forgetting them right now. But basically what people think of as soulmates are actually their soul groups. We have soul groups, and we're all doing the spiritual awakening for our soul groups. And then each soul group, comes back together as a bigger ball, and then those come back together as a bigger ball. And so we're doing awakening for our soul clusters. That's why you can have people that feel like that kindred spirit who's not necessarily a love interest, because our soul clusters, for lack of a better way of putting it, because I forget the word, at the moment, but yeah, our soul groups, our soul clusters, we are actively contributing to their awakening when we awaken. We're actually actively contributing to raising their vibration, like we're contributing to raising the vibration of the whole planet when we are actively raising our own vibration. And actually that leads me to what I'm going to end this with, which is that I'm going to be doing a video about star seeds coming up here in a few days. I've got a couple of things that I'm floating right now. So stay tuned, because I've got a few videos that I'm going to be sharing here in the next couple of days, hopefully, that I'm excited to talk about. I should have really just sat down, since I'm doing these 5-minute videos now. I should have just sat down as I was inspired to talk about each of them today as I was writing them down, and just gotten them out. But yeah, can't really spend my whole day shooting videos. Got people to see, things to do, places to be. Anyway, thank you all for joining me for another Reality Riffs. I am so honored to be doing these under the title of Reality Riffs as a way to honor the late, great Guru Jagat, which is where the Reality Riffs title came from. She used to do her podcast, Reality Riff, and I just thought it would be an appropriate name for having these little moments of impromptu, inspired action, share and tell. All right, guys, may the energies you serve you well. Seriously, how are you doing today? Let me know in the comments if you feel so inclined, because I wanna know how you're doing. Whenever I ask, I actually mean it. How are you doing today? I want to hear all about it. Let's keep making our way through, and I'll see you in the next one.